Everything's coming up to Timberwolves. Yeah, in the zone. Simple dedication to the team when you're in the know. To Timberwolves. Yeah, in the soul. Lifting all the positivity for the Wolves to grow. So, where we going from here, man? We listen week to week to get the clearest to clear. Recaps, got that. Soundcap, got that. Team ads, got that. So tell me what they do not have, huh? How dare you? Foolish question to ask, but I don't mean to go brag. But boy, they got all the stats, and they could go all the way back from KG to Zerbiak. And all I'm saying is that the cast a one-stop shop for my Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Ain't a thing falling, everything's coming up. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Falling from the autumn, ain't nobody gonna stop them. It's the Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Phonies, you can spot them, they the sheep under their clothes. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Talk a lot about them, I don't really know. Let's go.
Welcome in to the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. My name is Gabe Anderson, and I'm joined, as always, by Chris Emerson. Chris, how we doing?
Doing good. You know, we're winning.
Right? It might not be against the best teams, but at least we are winning, and we're winning convincingly, and we'll talk about that in a second. And Jared, back from Clearwater, Florida. How we doing?
Doing wonderful. I had fun on vacation. I even kind of miss you guys. I think I popped in on the live stream you guys had when I was down there. But yeah, happy to be back. The Wolves are winning. I might backtrack to a few games that you guys talked about previously, just because I have some opinions on a couple of them. But yeah, happy to be back and hanging out with the guys on a Tuesday.
That's right.
Absolutely. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know that the Timberwolves have won 4 in a row after dropping 6 straight. So I guess they wasn't completely 6 straight. They had that Laker win in there, but essentially everything's coming up Timberwolves, I guess you could say right now. So let's talk about this. What has changed the most? Like what are we seeing in these games that we haven't been seeing in the past games? And we'll start with you, Chris. What do you think?
Well, one thing that I've seen that I actually has said before that I really want to see is we're using Cat a little different. He seems to be like we're getting him on the move more. There hasn't been these last 4 games. We haven't done so much of the, hey, just post up the big guy and let him back it down. We did a little bit last game, but that was good to see. I mean, that's not his game. I think the sooner the Timberwolves and Karl Anthony Towns realize that he's not a back to the basket player, will be good. So that's been big. And, just everyone's contributing more. Like we mentioned way earlier in the year that, we kind of figured what we'd get from our big 3, but the team's only going to go as far as the next, 4 or 5 guys will go. Like Jaden's going to have to hit some shots, and Vanderbilt's going to have to give us something. And, every Beasley's going to have to be hot again. So some of that's taken back in the right direction. So just that, and just, we talked about flow on offense, and flow is what Chris Finch always said he has. He doesn't run many plays, and it seems like we're moving the ball better, and we're sharing it better, and our big 3 are less greedy. So we'll see if that continues.
Yeah, and I was looking. To be honest, I missed the game last night. I was hanging out with a friend, but I was looking at stats, and D'Angelo Russell had 6 or 7 assists in the first half. So, yeah. I mean, you definitely see him out distributing the ball. If he can be a multi-tooled player, yes, a scorer, yes, a shooter, but if he can get other people involved as well, kind of what Ricky Rubio used to do, but be the 1,000 times better shooter than Ricky Rubio is, I mean, that's a major win. Jared, what have you seen on this team different? What's been the difference for this team?
I think the biggest thing for me is we've played really well defensively in a lot of our wins, and in a lot of our losses, we've played really poorly defensively. So I think that was kind of my biggest takeaway from the recent games that I've caught. But this team seems to go after every single loose ball. I watched the Pelicans game last night from start to finish, and I look at looking back at it, I'm like, well, we didn't shoot all that well. I think D'Lo was 3 for 16 from the field. Ant didn't shoot very well, and Cat had a decent game. Which, like, looking back at it, it's like they won this game on the defensive end in a way, because they only shot 41%, which is still below the league median, which I think is around 47% or so. But we'll talk about that in a little bit when talking about shooting. But I think the biggest thing is people are moving around and firing off the ball defensively. And I think that's something that I like to see, because this team is a live and die team, kind of by like the 3 ball and kind of by like how they're shooting. They're super streaky on the offensive end, in my opinion, although they've kind of graded out super efficiently. But they also have been shooting fairly poor so far yet. So
Right. Chris, you got something? Go ahead.
Yeah, we talked about this, I think, even before the season, where so like when Ricky Rubio was here, same as I think I mentioned before, Jason Williams when he was in Sacramento, the vibe of passing became, well, it didn't as much here, but like Jason Williams, for example, the passing became contagious and everyone was passing. Everyone was thrown behind the backs. And we mentioned that with Vando, that he brings that, like, I got to get on the floor because this dude is, I mean, I've seen him on the floor 6 times already today. I got to at least do it once. Well, now you've got Vanderbilt and Beverly starting, which was probably the biggest change. Those 2 guys starting bring that intensity up where everyone is trying to match that, because you don't want to look terrible next to a guy that's working harder than you. Like if you're this guy making 20 million or the number 1 pick, and some journeyman point guard or some undrafted type big man is out hustling you often, there's a pride factor that comes in, and that just wears off. And there was somebody was interviewing, I forget who it was, they were talking about defense, and they said, well, when you see guys like Vanderbilt and I think it was Vanderbilt and Beasley or Beverly, those 2 guys have their assignment, so you don't even have to worry about that. Like, they've got that locked down. So it just takes a little more stress off our defense knowing we have those 2 guys out there. And we're just playing so much better as a unit defensively. I think 7th in the NBA right now. It's huge. I mean, it's everything that we've wanted to be, is have a decent defensive team. Now we just need to have a decent offensive team.
Right. And I think a lot of people weren't expecting people to even be saying that, right? Like, that we need to be a decent offensive team. We thought that would just come. Talking on the offensive side, and this is not a huge jump, but just seeing like something out of him. I think now, maybe not last night, he didn't have a great game against the Pelicans, but in small minutes, particularly the Grizzlies and Spurs games, we're finally starting to see a little what Gerson Rosas, rest in peace, what he saw out of Taurean Prince. Because we're finally he's starting to hit a couple shots. He's starting to get a little more aggressive. I know he got thrown out of that one game, but and actually
that was a bad call.
That was a bad call, but you were finally starting to see something, and I think the bench production is big. What's going into this? Seeing Malik Beasley knocking down a few, seeing Taurean Prince getting it done. Naz Reid, I mean, the best contract in the entire NBA. Like, we're starting to. I think what has happened a lot is we'll build up a lead with the starters, then we put the second string in, and then lose it a little bit, and it'll start to go the wrong way. So, also, I love the dynamic. I feel like the Timberwolves haven't had this in a while. They always have a scorer on the court, whether it be Ant, whether it be Cat, or whether it be D'Lo. There's always someone on the court, so we don't see lineups where like your best scorer is like Sebastian Telfair or something like that. Bringing it back to the day.
Bring back some dark days there with the Sebastian Telfair.
Right.
That's super important, though. I mean, that's what Finch has been doing. At about the 6-minute mark, he subs out he subs out D'Lo, and then brings him back in with that second unit to run that second unit, and he has looked great that way. He hasn't been playing that great, like, statistically, but just the things that he does, he's just such a smart player. He's a basketball IQ guy. and it just kind of holds. He's like the glue that holds everything together on that second unit. Without him, especially now that we're starting Beasley or Beverly, not like Beverly is that great of a point guard, but we don't have anyone that can run the off. Like if we had a McConnell or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
we would be. I think we would be quite a bit better. But we need him on that second unit, or else it's just chaos.
Right. No, I totally agree. One guy that could bring him in to play point guard is doing pretty well with the Iowa Wolves. Man by the name of McKinley Wright.
He's like fourth in the G League in scoring. He's averaging
know.
like 28 points a game and shooting like 60% from three or something like that over 5 games or something, like a decent clip.
There's a guy on this podcast that kind of touted McKinley, right? Pretty much since our preseason preview podcast, and he's on the left, I think. Well, that's how I see it, anyways. That's Gabe's guy.
Well, okay. Here's the thing. Do I think that McKinley Wright is going to come in and set the world on fire? No, I don't. Because watching him in the preseason, he got trapped a couple of times. He turned the ball over. He made some rookie mistakes. But I just feel like in a pinch, if we need it, because like I mean, it kind of shows, right? Like how little we play J-Mac. I mean, we put him in maybe 5 minutes a game at this point. Maybe
he's not very good.
Exactly. Right. And if we can have a minor for a guy that maybe plays 10 minutes over him, and we get like a McKinley Wright in there, and he can be decent at least for 10 minutes a game. That's all we need him for. That's really all we need, barring an injury, of course.
I bet we will. I mean, I could see him get a couple more games down there, maybe 10, 15 games under his belt, and then give it a shot.
Right. And right. I'm not saying rush him up here. Like, I don't want to stint his development at all. I'm just saying if we can get a better J-Mac for like 10 minutes a game, like that's kind of what we need. Do we want to field a question from
Sure.
All right, we got one here.
Yeah, I'll go
Jason McGuire. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go first on Jason's question. Do we love Beverly? We kind of talked about it a little bit in the offseason, how we thought that that he was going to bring kind of like a leadership role, and he's kind of brought that. And he's also like super good defensively, which is what a lot of this team needed to get a lot better. So, I mean, we like Beverly. He brings toughness, like you said, which is kind of key to me because, like, I kind of want to reiterate back to that Suns game because it was the game that made me almost throw my laptop into the door because I was so mad watching that game. And I know Gabe was there, so
I was there.
So we reiterate back to that Suns game. I am a guy that never complains about the referees, like never. I'm a player. I was a coach. You know, I just was raised not to complain about the referees. It's kind of something that you grow into. Doing those type of things, and that game drove me absolutely insane. And then we picked up 2 cheap technical fouls, and we were still there in the end of the game. Beverly had a chance at the free throw line to tie that game, and then he missed a free throw, and just pretty much everything that could go wrong in the final minutes kind of did go wrong. But we were right there with a team in the NBA right now that is on a streak of 13 wins. That is the Phoenix Suns.
That's why this video is called the second hottest team in the NBA, because
I knew what you were getting at there with that. Yeah. But yeah, so I was super frustrated watching that game. It just felt like everything didn't go our way. There was a blatant travel call on Chris Paul that was missed that really got me heated. And I was kind of like screaming at my laptop as I was watching the game, but that game really got me heated. And then the game before that, I just kind of want to reiterate, not that we're the negativity podcast, but the Clippers game I was extremely frustrated with because I kind of want to talk about how it seems like when the Timberwolves get into a defensive set where teams go 4 out with one giant big, being like Zubac or Hartenstein for the Clippers, man, I mean, they shot extremely well. I think they shot like 64%, but we looked lost on defense. And another thing that happened in that game that I know Chris wants to talk about, because I saw it. I don't know if you guys remember, but we seen Cat and Nas on the floor at the same time, and it kind of reiterated why that's not happening. I feel like we got beat a lot off dribble drives, and that game was ugly. I was watching that game thinking, man, this is probably one of the worst games I've watched in years, and the Clippers just seem to always roast us no matter what. But I'm interested to see if Chris thinks that was more of the Clippers just being absolutely on fire that night, or if that was a subject to trying to play Nas at the 4.
Well, I'll go back to the Jason's question a little bit about Beverly. He's what we need. He's what we needed. Listening to some of the players in their interviews after games, they've talked about him as he demanded better defense. He demands it every day when he comes in. It's not like, he wants it or he's talking about it. Like, it's a demand. And whatever he's doing to do that, people are responding to it. Sometimes it doesn't work. Like, it didn't work with Jimmy Butler when he was here. He supposedly tried to have that same vibe, and it didn't work. We were still 23rd in the NBA in defense that year. But Beverly comes in, and he has that attitude, and he's earned it. He's earned it through hard work, which is, something that guys can look up to. He's not a great player. I mean, he's good, but I mean, championship teams should probably have, a better 2-guard than Beverly. But for what we have, he's a perfect fit. So Jason, his toughness is obvious. His grit is obvious. But what I think he brings more than even his defensive grit is a ball handler that can take D'Lo a little bit off the ball. And I saw recently in a plus minus, our big 3 plus Beverly were like 127 points for 100 possessions. And our big 3 minus Beverly were like 98 points. So, I mean, it's a staggering difference how much better he makes our offense. Obviously the defense he impacts too, but that was something that I was surprised at. So moving him into the starting lineup, Jason, I think was probably the best move that Finch has done so far this year.
So I have an interesting question about that because Chris, you were mentioning how we tried like getting all defensive minded or demanding defense from Butler. Do you think like guys like maybe Towns, like specifically Towns, is responding to a guy like Beverly better because he's not like the star? Like Jimmy Butler was like the star demanding defense and stuff like that. Do you think that it's coming from someone who's not the star and not like taking away like shots from the big 3?
I think it helps.
Yeah,
I think it helps. I mean, when you're the face of the franchise and you're 23 years old and you're just trying to establish your brand, who you are, build this team up. This is your team. You're building on your back. And then all of a sudden they bring in this flamboyant, whatever you want to call him, Jimmy Butler, and he comes in acting like he's King Dingling. That's not a good vibe for that young player, and it kind of puts him in check. And I don't think I don't think it worked. I mean, obviously it didn't work, but I don't think the mode that Butler used worked. And Butler might have himself learned from that when he went down to Miami. I'm not sure, but
right. I hope for him he did, because
I think that was something that definitely the change in Beverly being just a guy, just a guy putting in work, opposed to a guy trying to put up 20 shots, I think is big.
Jared, anything to add on that? Did we lose Jared?
I can't hear him.
Jared, I think we lost you.
I was muted.
Back.
Sorry. Not a whole lot to add on to that. I think Chris basically got most of the talking points out of that subject. He's just a guy that, like, we talked about this in the preseason preview show, and I'm gonna kind of always reiterate back to that because I feel like, that was kind of like how we expected to see this team, and we expected to see the new players gel, and we talked about, what we expected from our guys. this is what we expected from Beverly. We expected him to be a leader, a hard-nosed, gritty defensive guy that got in our young guys' ears. So, like, we're still one of the youngest teams in the entire NBA. And that's the kind of stuff that you need when you're looking at Patrick Beverly. I want to make a little quick kind of transition here. I know we had on the outline one of the players that you thought was key to our success. So I'm going to kind of trying to transition us into that question that we had on the outline. I think my biggest thing for the reasons to our key to our success is obviously Vando. Vando's played extremely good, but more importantly is almost every single game that we've been in, Vando plus J-Mac have both been in foul trouble. And that's kind of going away. Like, they're still battling a little bit, but I think they're finding enough balance to where they can kind of balance out their roster construction or their lineup on the floor to kind of beat around the bush on that. But I also think that J-Mac's playing a lot better lately. It's one guy that I was really, really hard on at the beginning of the season, kind of standing in the corner a lot, but he's moving a lot more. And he's playing better basketball, putting the ball in the hoop. And I think the way we're mixing the I think Gabe said that, we're undefeated with headband McDaniels. What's this? There's too many J-Macs on this team.
Here's a question on top of that. Do you think that particularly the bench has been better for him? Like, not in a starting role, like coming off the bench and maybe playing some defense and hitting a three here and there. Do you think maybe that's taken some pressure off of him? Any thoughts on that? Or
I do. I think it's been a lot better. Like, he's a young player. You got to remember that. He's still young. He got into this big role as being our mysterious four-man that we didn't have a four-man, and he was kind of going to be the guy to shoulder the load, and then it ended up being Vando. And it kind of was like, I think in a way, like, as a basketball player, like when you're playing all the time and you're just frustrated and nothing's going right, like moving to the bench can kind of almost be like a sigh of relief, like knowing that you don't have that pressure and you can just play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be. He never really earned it. He never really earned a starting spot. So hopefully this will bring that to him. But I mean, like I said in the beginning of the year, I've still got a lot of questions about him. Like, we were proclaiming him in the Ring of Honor, after one game, after one season, like he's going to be the next thing. And I just don't know if he has it in his chest, like, I don't know if he has it. He's a heck of a defender, but he's going to have to produce more offensively, or else he's just going to be a role player, which is fine. A good defensive long guy who you can put on their best wings. I mean, they say every wing comments at least, or almost every team we play. I think Finch said somebody comes up to him and is like, hey, that dude can really defend. I know Chris Paul did, he said some of those other big time players are like, hey, this guy can defend. So, I mean, he just might be a 5-year development kind of thing, and he might really hit his stride 4 or 5 years down the road. But yeah, he's playing better. He's hitting his shots. I mean, he was shooting like 12% from three for the first, 5-6 games. So I think he's, he hit a couple the other night and confident. I mean, the ball swings and he's firing right away. So that's all I care about right now is seeing these guys fire and not Jeff Teague hesitate before he shoots it kind of thing.
Oh, it takes me back. Yeah.
I know Timothy Hunt isn't in the chat, but if he was in the chat, he'd have something to say.
Yeah. So let's go here. So some that I kind of want to talk about. I know you put it in the outline, Chris. Should there be a pecking order between Cat, Edwards, and D'Lo? Like, you kind of explain that question a little bit. What do you mean, Chris? Just so we kind of understand it.
Just offensively. Like, do we want to work through Cat? Do we want to, have D'Lo play more off the ball and let Ant attack and play off that? Do we want D'Lo to be the main facilitator? I'm just wondering if there's what you guys' opinion on that is, or if there's like a fourth option that, some magical fourth option that's super cool I don't even know about.
Go ahead, Jared.
I was going to say, you go first if you want, Gabe, but I'll answer this question. I personally, and you guys know that I am probably one of the biggest D'Lo supporters that you'll ever meet in the entire world. Like, D'Lo's my guy. So do I think the pecking order should start with him? I mean, probably not. I think he's the third best player of the three. But I've also I know if you guys seen this on True Fans, our Facebook page, Minnesota True Fans. If you're looking for a good Timberwolves page, that's one of the best. But I talked about D'Lo, and when he scores more than 18 points a game, we seem to, and when it's under that, we seem to lose a lot. Now, yesterday I think was a bad example because I don't think he scored a whole ton, but he's one of those guys that's just a streaky player. So if we can get him going early, I think that makes a big difference for this team. We really haven't seen a game where like all three of our players our top three all-stars, but they might not all be all-stars come all-star break time. But
all-star talent.
Yeah, players. I mean they're right in that realm. But I think that if D'Lo starts hot, the game just seems to make so much of a difference. I was watching the Pelicans game yesterday, and I think we had a pretty sizable lead, and then it got cut down to like 4 or 3. And I remember commenting in our page, and I was like, this game has me nervous just because of the way the game was kind of flowing, and he wasn't really hitting shots. And that's just like one player that's like I've said it since day one. He's our X factor. I just think that he hasn't been playing all that well, but we're winning. So it's kind of like behind the table. It kind of goes, unnoticed. And I kind of think that Ant has been kind of inefficient in a way as well. But we've been winning, so no one really notices it. But like when those three players get clicking on the same cylinder, we are going to win a lot of games if that happens.
So what would you say for the question?
For the pecking order?
I tell my wife when I ask her a question and she gives me 2 paragraphs and doesn't answer it. So like if I was to ask the question and you were to answer it, what would you say?
I would say that D'Lo and Ant should be our first looks offensively, because I think Cat is more secured in his role, and those guys are both more streaky players.
So my answer to this is, first of all, I hate when the offense runs through Cat, because they get it to him in the high post. He does 3 or 4 power dribbles, and then he either tries to draw a foul, or he does one of those things over his head or to the side, or whatever like the sling pass or whatever he does. Yeah, I hate when it runs through him. But I will say that's not saying he's a bad player. I'm saying that he's much more effective when he can get a pass and shoot a 3 or something, or get it on the dive, or get the ball on the move and then attack the basket. So my answer, actually, as much as I love D'Lo, I think it's got to run through Ant. I think he's our future. I would honestly love to see, before he takes a 3 at the beginning of a game, Ant attack the basket 2 or 3 times just to get that momentum going. I would love to see that happen. And maybe not. Okay, so maybe not like before he shoots a 3, but just early on in the game, Ant attacking the basket. I love when Ant's in attack mode. And like we were saying last year, Ant wasn't getting any calls or anything, or he wasn't finishing at the basket. He's starting to finish at the basket a little bit. He's starting to get some touch around the basket. So that's my answer. Is I think it needs to run through Ant. Chris, what's the right answer though?
No, I don't have a right answer. That was strictly just a question. I really wish that D'Lo embraced the playmaking role 100%. I wish that he was. I don't know if his ego but I wish he would have watched when we were successful with Ricky Rubio playing well, maybe not successful, but playing well last year with Rubio, how he ran the game. Because I think he can still get 15 shots up a game in the rhythm of the game. The problem I have with D'Lo is his off rhythm shots, which are 80% of his shots, 1 on 3 jacking up a 3-pointer, or early in the shot clock, this I don't know what the reverse of a fadeaway is, but that's what he does on some of those threes. He's like falling into the shot, jacking up like a 10-foot behind the 3-point line kind of shot. If he could just eliminate these, I think I'm Steph Curry or Trae Young kind of bombs, and just played in the rhythm of the game. That's what I think really turned us this season. Is there was, I forget which game it was, but there was a game where D'Lo hit 4 or 5, there's maybe 3 or 4 threes, and there were standstill threes where a guy made a play, kicked it to him, and he was standing there and just filled it up. And right now he's shooting 32% from 3. His career average is 36. Last year he was 39. If we can get, I mean, we're 2 wins out of like the 5th seed or the 4th seed in the West right now. And we've had those wins have happened. I hear you. Yeah, those wins, we already, knocked away those wins. We already had them and we gave them up. So he needs to play better. But like he did last game, if he can pass the ball and be creative with it and give other people opportunities, I'm fine. The problem is in the past, like last night when he was like 1 for 10 from 3 or something like that. In the past, he would shoot terribly, and that was all he had to offer. So between his tick up in defense and hopefully his tick up in play creation, I hope he's starting to realize that he is maybe the first option to start the play, but maybe the third option to take the shot.
Right. Oh, and something that I wanted to mention, I was thinking about this. It's not really on topic of this, but I wanted to bring it up. It's something that I found interesting is that the Timberwolves, particularly, let's take the last 2 games, right? The last 2 games. So what happened the last time they played New Orleans? They blew a lead in the 4th quarter. What happened the last time they played Memphis? They blew a lead in the 4th quarter and overtime, but Cat made a BS shot. Let's be honest. As cool as it was a BS shot. How about the fact that the T-Wolves, they came out, Memphis at home, Pelicans on the road, and just absolutely stomped on them. Like, we're not going to mess around this time. We're not going to mess around. We're not going to blow a 16-point lead in the 4th quarter. No, we are just going to, first of all, beat the largest margin of victory in the NBA this season. They come out and stomp on that Memphis team who didn't have Dylan Brooks, who kills us. But I mean, I don't think Dylan Brooks is making them win that game, particularly when Desmond Bane is doing what he's doing. But we come out the next night against a team that we blew a lead at home. I know because I was at the game. We blew a lead at home against the Pelicans, and we stomp on them as well. That's what the Wolves need to do when we play these teams where we either blow a big lead or know that we can beat them. We need to come out and just stomp on their necks, and that's what we did the last 2 games. And you could say San Antonio, but that wasn't really a revenge game. But I don't know.
I think Beverly's helping with that.
Right.
I think Beverly being with the starters, Beverly being with that main unit, I think is helping with that to just kind of balance the energy, just kind of balance the ebbs and flows of the game, to be the vet that's like, yeah, there's ups and downs, but you can't let the downs be a complete pitfall. It's a game of runs, but you just can't let it be a 30-point run kind of thing.
Right.
And I think what's important when we're talking about blowing leads is our rotations have changed. I noticed last night we kept our starters in there pretty late. We had D'Lo on the floor, we had Ant on the floor, we had we're not, like you said, Gabe, we're not screwing around anymore. Like, I feel like that's one thing that the NBA does that pisses me off so much is like, oh, a team gets up by 20 and then they put in, with 10 minutes in the 4th quarter, they put in their reserves and they blow the lead. And I feel like Finch is kind of catching on. Like, a win is worth more than the risk of a player getting hurt.
Right.
In a way, obviously you don't want to see anybody get hurt, but you want to win games instead of blow them. It doesn't matter
if we're
going
to be a playoff team.
It doesn't matter if you're 10-20 and then a guy gets hurt. Like, you have to at least be in the conversation before something like that happens. And I feel like the NBA is starting to catch on to that a little bit more, letting their star players roll a bit more with big leads, which I think is a big talking point.
Tom Thibodeau has been saying that for years.
If there's one thing he was right about, it was that.
Actually, to be fair, just a little side note, I think Tibbs is a great coach, to be honest with you. He might not be the most likable guy like to get along with or whatever, but I honestly think that Tibbs, I think there's a reason he's won Coach of the Year 2 times. But that's either here or there. And I when I'm not rooting for the Wolves, I honestly root for the Knicks. I love the Knicks, but that's neither here nor there. But
I hate I was just gonna say I hate Tibbs, but I love how he runs the team. Like we talked about this on a previous show. Your star players are the people that you want to decide the game. You don't want Alec Burks or Josh Okogie to try and be the difference maker. You want your stars out there when the game matters.
Or even like, I don't know if you want even Malik Beasley taking the game winning shot. Like, even looking at that, like I definitely want one of the big three taking the big shot. But so we mentioned it, Chris. I think you said in there, particularly when you're going to be a playoff team. So let's do a reassessment. So obviously we were down in the dumps last podcast. We had just lost a bunch of games. Things weren't looking. But a 4-game winning streak now, not necessarily the best caliber teams. I guess the one outlier that we beat was Memphis, but San Antonio's not going anywhere. New Orleans isn't going anywhere. And then who do we beat the first game? Who was the first of 4? Does anybody remember?
Some roadkill that we just smashed, man. Spurs? Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Let's see. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We won 4 in a row. So do we still see this team as a playoff team? Like, are we a playoff team? Are we a play-in team? Where should we be looking? Right now, we're the 10 seed, but obviously things can change. I mean, heck, the Lakers are in a
Kings.
King. The Kings. Yeah. Who should be better? They're in a tailspin right now. I'm pretty. Did you hear Tristan Thompson's comments after we beat them? Yeah, that was they're a mess right now.
But he seemed to forget that he's on a terrible team. Like, he was talking like he was on a team that was like has been to the playoffs 5 years in a row, and they're just playing bad right now. No, Tristan.
Like he's still on the Celtics.
Yeah, Tristan. Your team that you're on stinks.
Although I like De'Aaron Fox though. I really like.
Which is what's great about the NBA. Any single night you can turn it on, and it can be 2 dog crap teams, and it's a great game to watch because there's great talent all throughout the NBA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Halliburton's fun, but Buddy Hield can get hot, but they're just not.
Harrison Barnes might be turning around his career a little bit. He's playing pretty well lately. I mean, he played pretty well.
Found the fountain of youth. Maybe got some of that Iowa corn he grew up on back out in California or something.
Yeah, I mean, I remember he got that huge contract from, was that the Kings or did he get that from
Golden State?
Golden State, yeah, he got that huge contract and everyone was like, what is going on? And then he found a home in Sacramento, and well, I mean, more power to him. I like Harrison Barnes. I think he's a decent player. I don't think he's worth what he got paid, but still.
Win a couple championships, that'll happen,
That's true. That's a good point. So, Chris, I mean, what should we be? Is this a playoff team? Is this a playing team? Is this none of the above? I mean,
so
what should be our expectations?
I would say, it's hard because there's so much new stuff going on with the Timberwolves right now. Like I was saying earlier with us being 23rd in Jimmy Butler's year. So like every year of Karl Anthony Towns' career, first year we were 27th in defense. We were 26th. Jimmy Butler, we're 23rd. Then we're 24th, 21st, and 27th last year. Now we're 7th.
Jeez.
So is that sustainable? Like, are we sustainably the 7th best defensive team? I mean, if that's the case, I don't know. I mean, we're number 1 in turnovers, like in forcing turnovers. We're number 1 in defensive 3 balls for the other team. Like, if that sort of stuff holds up, I have to believe that the offense is going to come around. I have to believe. I mean, Beasley is a 39%, 38% career 3-point shooter. He's shooting something like 30%, 31% right now. If that turns around, if D'Lo turns around to actually hitting shots, those are the things that I think will turn around for sure. If the defense stays, even being the worst defensive rebounding team in the NBA, one of the best offensive teams, offensive rebounding, I would say we can be a real playoff team and not even a play-in. I think we can be eighth, seventh or eighth. I don't know. What's the cutoff now? Is it 7 for play-in?
Oh, 10.
6
No,
plays
but it's
10.
like, but it's 10, 9, and 8, or is it 10, 9, and 8, 7?
7 plays 10. So 6 is
Okay,
the
so I
lock-in.
think we'll be in the play-in. I don't think we'll be sixth or better, but I think we can be in that play-in.
I think that like I'm gonna just I hate to agree with you all the time, Chris, because it's not the funnest version of a podcast, but yeah, you kind of really hit the nail on the head. Like, this team offensively is, I think, now 22nd in the NBA on team field goal shooting percentage, which, I mean, if we're top 15, like I said, we're going to win a lot of games if we're top 15. So I think like our defense is carrying us right now, which is something I never thought I would say. And we have 3 very, very talented basketball players on our team. And this is nothing of a testament to Cat, because I feel like Cat has played great. He had one game where he kind of poo-pooed and went kind of disappeared. But if Ant and D'Lo get the ball to go in the basket at a little bit, not even a ton of more of efficient rate, but just like a little bit, like maybe give me 3 to 5% for both of them, we're going to win a lot of games. Like our shots still, even on this streak, are still not dropping. I think we shot 41% yesterday, and we blew out the Pelicans. We're a streaky team that's fun to watch. Like, if you haven't watched a Timberwolves game, if you're a random outsider that has not watched a Timberwolves game, sit down and watch a Timberwolves game, because they're fun to watch. I'll tell you what, we might be in a lot of close games. We might do a lot of head scratching things. We might blow 20-point leads, and we might win by 40. Like we just, it kind of depends on the night, like there's either shots are dropping or they're not.
Mm-hmm. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, you're talking about shooting. I mean, we're number 1 in the NBA in 3-pointer shot per game, which is, per the new analytics, is great. The problem is I think we're 20th or 19th. We're 19th in 3-point percentage. So that's below average. So we're shooting the most and we're below average in percentage. If we can even tick that up, like you were saying, if we can tick that up to even average and shooting the most, that's probably 9 points a game. I mean, that's maybe 2 or 3 3-pointers a game different. And that can be everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Personally, I think we're still a play-in team. Until I see otherwise, I just think the West is too tough, but that's just me. But so we wanted to talk briefly, and then we'll wrap up the show, about the LeBron James, Isaiah Stewart kind of dust up. Jared, what do you want to say about that, or what?
So I watched a lot of videos on YouTube. I didn't see it live. I kind of heard about it on SportsCenter when I was half asleep, and then I kind of looked at it the next day, and it was a scuffle. Like scuffles happen in the NBA. You get 2 guys trying to battle on a free throw, and LeBron's arm comes up, nicks him across the face. He's bleeding. I don't know if he's got long fingernails or what happened, but all of a sudden he's bleeding, and Stewart just goes irate, which is not acceptable. Like, he deserved a fine. He deserved a suspension. LeBron probably did too, and they both got a suspension. Where I have a problem with, though, is the fine. Isaiah Stewart was fined $950,000, which might sound like a lot to an average NBA player, but this guy, I still believe, is on a rookie contract. This is 30% of Isaiah Stewart's salary.
He was a second-round player.
Yeah, so he's fined over 30% of his NBA salary, which, to put that in perspective, is if LeBron were to be fined 30% of his salary, it would be $12 million. So, I mean, I get that you don't mess with the king, but like this was way too steep for me. Like this guy had a reason to be mad. He acted a fool, so he probably deserved a little bit more than, well, not a little bit more than he got, but like he deserved a thing, but this was over the top. I mean, anything over like 400K for me is too much. Like this guy ain't making, 41 million like LeBron. So I feel like that's kind of a big deal because like, people get lost in the thought like, well, how would you feel if I took away 30% of your salary for acting a fool? I would be pissed off too.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, but you also have to remember, kind of like the NBA, or kind of the NFL is like protect the shield. The NBA is very strong with that. I mean, they had guys wearing suits for decades. I think, do they still have to wear suits? I don't think so,
No, I don't think so. No.
but they had them wearing suits because they wanted to clean up the image. The Malice in the Palace happened, and everybody went crazy about cleaning up the image. I mean,
happened to be on the same team, ironically.
Isaiah Stewart ran over multiple players, ran past and through police officers, shoved guys around. I mean, this was like a 20-minute ordeal with this guy acting like a fool. And the NBA cannot have that for their brand. You can't have kids watching the game and watching this guy running around like an idiot because his eye got cut open, like because you got hit in the face on a free throw when you were like grabbing and ripping on somebody's arm. Like, I mean, it was a normal box out kind of like, and yeah, LeBron hit him. Did he purposely try to punch him? I don't think so, but let's say he did. Like, it was like a back fist. It hit him in the eye right where it splits open easy. Like, come on, man. Like, there's been way worse fouls in the NBA nightly, where guys get pushed from behind going for dunks or, tripped up in awkward ways. Like this was super minor, and he acted like a child, to be honest. He acted like an idiot. And I like Isaiah Stewart a lot. I think he's a really good ball player. But I'm surprised, truthfully, that he didn't get fined or did not the fine. I didn't even hear about that, but it is what it is, man. Don't act like that. Like if that happened, you said at your work, if you lost 30%, if you did that at your work, you're not coming back the next day. You're losing 100%. You know what I'm saying? I thought he'd get a 10-game suspension, to be honest, with the way that he acted after it, because you cannot do that on the national scene. Like you're representing the brand of the NBA, and we can't have people running around trying to fight people for 20 minutes, dude. That was ridiculous. What would have happened if he got to one of those Lakers guys? That's my question. Like, because
he looked like he was ready to tee off. I mean,
sure.
He was.
I mean,
pissed,
a lot of guys look. You work at a bar. I've worked at a bar for a long time. A lot of guys look like they're going to tee off until it's time to tee off. But if he was, let's say that happened. Let's say he got to DeAndre Jordan, who was standing there like a statue, letting him come. Let's say he got to Westbrook. What would have happened then? Full out brawl, dude, on national television. Come on, man. You can't have that.
He's not a small guy either.
He's a monster. He's a monster.
Well, the thing is, if we've learned anything from the movie Semi-Pro, you're supposed to brawl during the commercials anyway. So.
For sure.
For sure. Yeah, you wait. Particularly if it's nationally televised, you wait until the commercial hits and the camera guy's like, we're back, and then you sort everything out.
I mean, it was a couple guys holding on and being drugged like Van Gundy away from something that we maybe haven't seen in the NBA for 40 years. So I'm fine with the fine. I'm amazed he didn't get suspended longer. LeBron got 1 game. Most flagrant twos are 1 game, so I'm fine with that. To be honest, I would have been fine with 0 games. I don't think it was that big of a deal. But whatever. I mean, they'll be back. It's going to be an interesting game. And 3 games from now, they play each other. That's going to be interesting.
I'll tell you what, if you got LeBron or Stewart on your fantasy team, you might want to consider benching them because one of them's getting tossed again. I'll tell you that much.
Quick.
They ain't messing around.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what and I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but that's what I've always hated about baseball. Like the whole thing, like you throw at our guy, we throw at your guy. Like it's the whole thing.
Right.
Like we're gonna like it's stupid. Like just move on. Like it's just dumb. Anyway, so yeah, we wanted to talk about that a little bit. So the Wolves schedule, it gets a little more difficult. Gets I believe me and Chris were talking before the show, and I believe like until really basically the entire month of what is it? December is pretty tough until we play Oklahoma City in early January. So I think everyone has a winning record except for the Pacers, who just beat the Bulls. So if that says anything, but I think everyone, at least right now, and things could change until we play Oklahoma City on January 5th, has a winning record. So that's going to tell a lot about this team, but more in the immediate future. What we got? We got the Heat tomorrow.
Then we have the best 3-game stretch for viewing that I think I've ever seen as a Timberwolves fan.
Oh, really? Okay. Now, for the 76ers, is Embiid going to play? Because I saw is he playing right now? Do we know?
I saw today that he was expected to be activated Saturday, which is, I believe, the day that we play them.
Ah, shoot.
Don't quote me on that, but yeah.
So we could have Jimmy Butler in the Heat tomorrow. Then on the 26th, so it's Cat versus Butler, or Timberwolves organization versus Butler. And then Bam and Cat both went to Kentucky, so there might be some vibe in there. And then we've got the Hornets with LaMelo and Anthony Edwards the next game. That's going to be awesome. And then we've got the Sixers. So that's with Embiid and Cat. Like those are 3 must-see TV kind of games. Man, if we can get 2 of those, I will be over the moon. Truthfully, if we get 1, I'll be okay. But we can't get swept. That's what this stretch is. This next month is we just have to hold around 500 through that stretch. If we can hold through 500 through the month of December, I think we're a playoff team.
Well, like I don't want to like take a victory lap, but there was a guy in our Facebook group that was sending screenshots saying, "Hey, these next 7 games are pretty easy. Let's put the pedal to the metal and start winning." And we started winning, like you get some easy teams. If you're going to be a playoff team, you got to win these games. And like you guys were saying, schedule gets tougher, hold your serve and wait till it gets easier. Like this team can beat anybody and they can lose to anybody as well. Like this is a streaky team.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that we're figuring it out. It seems like my favorite thing that I've noticed about the Timberwolves these last couple games is, like you're saying, that we haven't had our big 3 all hitting at once. I think one game we had them all in the 20s, but what I like is that we're winning without that. And it looks like guys aren't forcing it. Like Anthony Edwards, was 6 of 6 in the first quarter, and he ended up with 10 shots in that game, or D'Lo last game was terrible. It's okay to not be the guy some night. And I think they're starting to feel that, where it's team first. And that's huge. That's really big.
Absolutely. And so I think we'll put a pin on it there. This has been another Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast episode. Chris, thanks for joining us as always.
Thank you. Let's get some fun wins these next couple games.
Absolutely. And hopefully we can break my streak tomorrow of being winless at Wolves games, because I will be in attendance for the Heat game. So if we don't,
that's
you ain't going no more. Yeah, you're done.
So I have this game and then the Hawks game, and then it's a dry spell until.
No, you might not. No.
All right, you guys want some tickets then?
Ticketmaster's open.
And Jared, thanks so much for being here.
Always a pleasure, man. I love our Tuesday night basketball hangout, talking Wolves. It's a lot funner to be on when we're winning. I'll tell you that much. Like this was a fun one, for
It
sure.
was. It was. I will say. So I'm going with my sister tomorrow. She does seem to get pretty lucky. She does seem to go like. Oh, so here we go. My sister was at the Minneapolis Miracle, so hopefully she'll bring some good juju in with her. So this has been the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Spotify so you never miss an episode. And as always, go Wolves.
That's right.